You do not have to look healed to begin healing. A Japanese poet, after his house burned down, he said, "Well, house burnt down. Now I can see the moon." Sometimes we can only see the light after things have fallen apart. And sometimes breaking open is what makes room for healing. You don't have to do yoga or run a marathon or follow some influencer's morning routine. You just have to do one small thing today. Welcome to Done Pretending, the podcast where healing meets authentic living. I am your host, Susan Houston, storyteller, mentor, and believer in the power of truth to set us free. This is your sanctuary for the soul, a safe space where we peel back the layers of judgment and fear to uncover the beauty of living real. Each week, you'll hear stories of courage, resilience, and transformation that remind you it's never too late to become who you were created to be. If healing required looking put together, most of us would be doomed. Good thing it doesn't. Let's talk about the real way healing begins. It's messy, honest, and inconvenient, and that's why it works anyway. Welcome to Done Pretending. I am your host, Susan Houston, and I'm so glad to have you back. Today, we are going to talk about beginning to heal from those past judgments, that past pain. And you don't have to be ready to do it. You're not going to look ready when you truly start to heal. So let's start here. Picture this. You've been scrolling through social media, as all of us do. I call it doom scrolling as I'm laying in bed. But you see everyone seems to have their lives put together. You have a friend who's posting about her morning meditation routine and her perfect breakfast and drinking her herbal tea. Someone else is posting how they've completed their healing journey and they've got this milestone with hashtags best life, transformed. Well, then there's us. Maybe you sat in your car and cried before you went inside after work yesterday. Or maybe you had a really hard time getting out of bed this morning. And instead of working to get your hair ready and looking good, you just put it up in a bun and hurried out the door because you were running late. We've all been there. Maybe you snapped at someone that you love, or you've been dealing with the same anxiety that's been haunting you for months. You think to yourself, you know, I really need to get over this, but I'm just not ready. I don't even look like someone who's healing. I'm still too messy. Here's what I want to tell you, and I want you to hear this. It's truly from the bottom of my heart. You do not have to look healed to begin healing. Healing does not require a before photo of you when you've already got it together. It does not demand that you feel motivated, inspired, or even Instagram ready. Healing begins in the mess, in the middle of the storm. It starts in the breakdown, and it happens in those moments when you're still crying and you're still struggling and still feeling like you're falling apart. Today, we're going to dismantle that toxic myth that you need to be ready or worthy or together enough to start your healing journey. We're going to talk about what healing actually looks like. Spoiler alert, it's way messier than the wellness industry wants you to believe. And I'm going to give you 3 concrete steps that you can take with you today, right where you are, no matter how broken you feel. So whether you're listening to this in your car or on a walk or laying in your bed at 2 p.m. still in your pajamas, you are exactly in the right place. So let's dive in. The myth of feeling ready to heal is something that we live with. We live in a culture obsessed with transformation narratives. It's all over your social media. I know, I read them all too. You know, the ones like, I hit rock bottom and then I discovered yoga and green smoothies, and now it's cleared my body and I'm thriving. These stories have their place And they've created dangerous misconceptions that healing is linear, that it looks a certain way, and most harmfully, that you need to be in a certain state of mind to even start. That is what I call the readiness myth. It's the belief that tells you, I need to be more stable before I can go to therapy. I should wait until I'm in a better place to work on myself, or I'm just too depressed to even start healing from my depression. No one can pull me out of this. Do you hear the trap in that logic? It's like saying you need to be clean before you take a shower. Research in psychology shows us something very different and very powerful. Healing does not begin when you're ready. Healing creates readiness. So, what that means is that change happens in stages. And the very first stage is called pre-contemplation, a phrase where people aren't even sure they want to change it. Here's the key: you can still be moving forward even in that uncertain place. Trauma doesn't work on a schedule. Depression doesn't wait for you to be ready. And anxiety doesn't care if you've got your life together. Healing meets you exactly where you are. In fact, some of the most profound healing happens when we're still in the thick of the pain, because that's when you're being the most honest. That's when our defenses are down. And that's when we stop performing and we start getting real about what we're actually experiencing. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't even need to be motivated. You don't even need to believe that healing is possible yet. You just need to take one small step while you're still in the mess. So, what does healing actually look like? If healing doesn't look like a polished, Pinterest worthy version we see online, what does it look like? Let me paint you a more honest picture. Healing looks like crying in the therapist's office for the third week in a row and still showing up for the fourth week. It looks like having a panic attack on Tuesday, but managing to use one coping skill on Wednesday. And healing also looks like taking two steps forward and one step back. Or sometimes it looks like taking one step forward and three steps back and choosing to keep going anyway. Research from the field of trauma recovery supports this messy reality. It says that the body keeps score. That's a book that I love and I highly recommend. But what it does is it explains that healing from trauma isn't about erasing what happened to us or becoming a new person. Instead, really, it's about learning to live with what happened in a new way. We've all had trauma. We just have to learn how to be ourselves and be okay with it. It's about integrating our experiences into our lives rather than transcending them. Let me share a concept from the Japanese culture called, and I'm probably going to say this wrong, kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery. So, what they do is instead of hiding the cracks that happen in pottery, they fill them with gold. They treat all of that breakage and repair as part of the object's history, and they make it more beautiful. That gold makes it more valuable because of what it's been through. And that's what real healing is going to look like. You don't become unbroken. You become someone who has survived being broken and carried on anyway. The cracks are still there. They're just filled with gold now. So, healing, it might look like going back to therapy, even though the last session was really hard. It might be setting a boundary, even though your voice shook when you said it, or getting out of bed when depression told you not to. It could also look like asking for help when every part of you wants to isolate. You might cry and then washing your face, taking a deep breath, and trying again. You have to accept that you're struggling instead of pretending that you're fine. And here's something crucial: healing often looks like nothing from the outside because most of it happens on the inside. It happens internally, invisibly. It's rewiring decades of childhood wounds or learning to regulate your nervous system. And nobody around you would even know that you're working on this or that you're healing, that you're improving. You don't get a gold star or a social media celebration for the day you finally stopped believing that cruel thing that your inner critic has been telling you for 20 years. The absence of visible progress is not the absence of progress. The practice of treating yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a good friend is one of the strongest predictors of healing from mental health challenges. Not perfect meditation, not complete life overhaul. It's just being kind to yourself in the middle of that struggle. So when you're tempted to think that you don't look healed enough to be healed, remember, healing isn't a look, it's not an aesthetic, it's a practice. It's knowing and showing up for yourself, even when, and especially when, you're still hurting. All right, let's get practical. I promised you 3 concrete steps and actions that you can take right away wherever you are in your healing journey. These are not about being perfect or having it all together. These are about taking one small step while you're still in the middle of the mess. So, action number 1 is name one thing. It's this beautiful, simple name one thing action you're struggling with out loud or writing that thing in a journal. What you're going to do is write what you're struggling with out loud, say it out loud, or write it in a journal. This might sound almost too simple, but there's powerful research behind this. A UCLA neuroscientist studied that the brain in imaging showed that when people put their feelings into words, a process called affect labeling actually happens and it reduces the activity in the amygdala, which is part of your brain that's responsible for emotional reactions. In other words, just naming what you're feeling can begin to reduce its intensity. You're not trying to solve it yet. You're not trying to strategize it or fix it or optimize your life. You're just being honest about one thing that's hard right now. Maybe it's, I'm struggling with anxiety about work, or I feel incredibly lonely. It could be, I'm still angry about what happened last year, or even, I don't know why I feel bad, but I feel really bad. You can say it out loud to yourself in the mirror, or you can write it in a journal. If you have a trusted friend, text it to them. You can whisper it into the universe. God will hear you. The method doesn't matter, but your honesty does. And why does this matter for healing? Because denial keeps us stuck. We cannot heal what we cannot acknowledge. And the act of naming something, even if you do nothing else, is the beginning of healing. It's saying, this is real, this is happening, and I'm not going to pretend anymore. Do it now if you can. Pause the podcast and name one thing. It's okay. I'll wait. Go right ahead. Welcome back. You just took your first healing step and you didn't have to be ready to do it, did you? All right, let's talk about action number 2. Do one kind thing for your body today, one small act of care, and acknowledge that you live in this body that was created to be a temple. And it's been carrying you through some really hard times through this life. This isn't about fitness or health optimization. This is about basic tenderness towards yourself. Research shows that this matters not in grand gestures, just consistent self care. Tiny practices were associated with better mental health outcomes and greater resilience to the face of stress. Let me give you some examples. Go drink a full glass of water for yourself right now, or step outside for 2 minutes and feel the breeze and the air on your face. Listen to the birds outside. Take 5 deep breaths slowly, really feeling them. Maybe stretch your neck and your shoulders and eat something, anything, especially if you have had no appetite recently. And here's one: put on clothes that feel comfortable instead of what you think you should wear. Trauma lives in the body, not just in the mind. Healing, therefore, it also has to involve our body. We have been through hard times. It has taken its toll on us, and we often disconnect all those feelings from our body, or we think we do. But our body is where the pain lives. Healing requires us to gently and gradually come back home to ourselves physically. You don't have to do yoga or run a marathon or follow some influencer's morning routine. You just have to do one small thing today and say to yourself, I know I'm hurting and I matter anyway. So pick one thing from that list or choose your own and do it today, not tomorrow, not when you're feeling better, not as tired or anxious, not next week when you have more time. Go do something now. In the mess, while we're still struggling, that's exactly where you need to begin. All right, action step number 3: reach for connection in some small, easy way, the tiniest thread of connecting. Grab it. Here's what research tells us about isolation, which is extremely common when we are facing trauma. Research shows that even a small, brief moment of connection can have protective effects. You don't need a huge support system or a deep network or vulnerable friendships at this point. You just need to not be completely alone. When we're struggling, we tend to isolate ourselves because it feels safe, but it feels like protection, but it's really not. And you think, oh, I'll reach out when I'm better, or this was always mine. I don't want to be a burden to anybody else. Nobody wants to hear about my problems. I'll wait until I have something more positive to share. But isolation is where healing goes to die. Connection, even small connection, is medicine. And you don't have to be healed to take it. So here's what this could look like: send a text to one person that you trust, and say, hey, I've been struggling today. I don't need you to respond. I just needed to tell somebody. Or reach out and comment on a friend's social post, something genuine and something meaningful. You could also join an online support group. Say good morning to a neighbor or pet a dog that's walking by and have a brief conversation with that dog's owner. Show up to any group activity. It could be a class, it could be a meeting. Even if you don't say much, go ahead and go. You can even watch a live stream or a video from a creator who makes you feel a little bit less alone because you have a connection, and leave a comment. And I really hope that our podcast can be that connection for you as well. So leave me your comments. I want to know how it's helping you. A powerful finding from attachment research is we do not and will not heal in isolation. We heal in connection. A doctor explains that our nervous system literally co regulates with other people. So, what that means is that being around other people, even when we're not talking about our problems, can help our bodies feel safer and calmer. And it doesn't mean you have to be around them for a long time or go someplace that is going to be overwhelming to you. Just go and be around other people. You don't have to explain what you're going through. You don't have to be vulnerable in big ways. You just have to create one tiny bridge between yourself and another human being today. The people who heal are not the ones who wait until they're perfect to reach out. They're the ones who reach out while they're still falling apart. So let's come back to where we started. You do not have to look healed to begin your healing journey. You do not have to feel ready or motivated. You don't have to have your life together or know what you're doing or where you're going or even believe it's going to work. You don't have to match some idealized version of what healing looks like on social media or even in your own imagination. You just have to be honest about what you're feeling and take one small step moving forward. I've said this before in the podcast, but constant small steps build momentum. And healing is not about transformation into something unrecognizable. It's about becoming more fully your true self, including the parts that brought you here, that are scared, the parts that are still hurting, those cracks. But let's start filling those with gold. Let's start learning to hold all of it with a little more compassion and a little more understanding and a little more grace. The researchers have said healing happens in the doing, not in the waiting. It happens when we show up for ourselves. It's messy, it's imperfect, it's inconvenient, but it has to be honest. The honest conversation, the glass of water, taking a deep breath, or the decision to try again. And it happens without a lot of fanfare. Most of the time, healing looks like getting through just another day. It looks like choosing yourself, even when it's hard. And it looks like continuing when everything in you wants to quit. You're listening to this and you're still struggling. That's good. That means that you're alive and you're feeling and that you're in the perfect place to begin. Not tomorrow, not when you feel better, but right now, in this moment, exactly as you are. And let me leave you with this. It's a Japanese poet after his house burned down. He said, well, house burnt down. Now I can see the moon. You see, sometimes it's just reframing what we feel and what we see. It's still there. Sometimes we can only see the light after things have fallen apart. And sometimes breaking open is what makes room for healing. Your house might be burning right now. You might be standing in the ashes, feeling like everything is ruined, but you're still here. And from where you're standing, you can now see the moon. Healing begins here in the mess. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for listening and for showing up for yourself. If it resonated with you, please share this with someone. We all deal with hidden struggles and pain in our lives. Someone you know probably needs to hear this. You're not alone in this, even when it feels like you are. Hit that follow button and be sure and go to the comments and let me know how you felt about this. Take care of yourself, be gentle with yourself, and know that you're doing better than most people out there. And you're definitely doing better than you think you are. Thank you for joining me on Done Pretending, where healing meets authentic living. If today's conversation moved you, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't yet, be sure to follow the show and leave a review. Your words help this message reach more hearts around the world. Remember, you are seen, you are loved, and your story has the power to set others free.